Most people start their mornings reacting, rushing, worrying, but the few who win, they begin with intention. Before the world grabs their mind, they claim it. One small act, repeated daily, separates the scattered from the powerful. It doesn't take hours, just a choice, a ritual, a decision to lead your day before it leads you. In a few moments, I will teach you how to take control of your life by mastering one morning habit. Wake with purpose before the world wakes up. Before the birds stir, before the sun rises, before the world has its say, you must rise. Not to rush, not to scramble, but to own your moment. Most people open their eyes with no plan. They wait for the day to happen to them. But you're not most people. The moment you wake, you are at a crossroads. You can drift into another ordinary day, or you can command the day like a general stepping into battle. But here's the truth. If you wake without a mission, you surrender your power before you've even stood up. What does this mission look like? It's not loud, it's not grand, it's silent, internal. It starts by asking, what am I here to do today? Not what must I do, but what do I choose to build? Take 5 minutes, sit up in bed. Don't move until you've spoken purpose into your day. Today I advance. Today I endure. Today I rise no matter what tries to stop me. This simple act rewires your spirit. It conditions your mind to follow your will, not the other way around. Imagine a man who wakes before his children, before the factory bell rings, before his fields need tilling. He doesn't rush. He doesn't complain. He stands at the window, speaks his aim for the day, and then marches toward it. Will you wake and wonder what the day holds, or will you wake and tell the day what it will be? Confront the mirror and command your standard. When the world hasn't spoken yet, you stand in front of the mirror, not to see your reflection, but to face your standard. Who you are meets who you said you'd be. This moment matters more than people realize. Most walk past their mirror and avoid its stare, but every morning you must stop. Look yourself in the eye. Ask, am I becoming the man or woman I promised I'd become? You see, it's not the world that holds you back. It's not your job, not your family, not your surroundings. It's the quiet agreements you've made to stay the same. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow I'll change. But the mirror knows better. So you stand still, you hold your gaze, and you say, today I set my tone. I don't wait to feel strong. I declare I am strong. I don't wait to feel motivated. I decide I am ready. Here's the secret. Confidence doesn't come after success. It comes before. It's earned in these silent declarations, repeated until belief becomes instinct. Think of the man in overalls rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looks into his cracked mirror, nods once, and steps into the world with his head held high, not because of who he is, but because of who he's becoming. Now ask yourself, when you look in the mirror tomorrow, will you speak power or excuse? Move your body before doubt wakes up, before hesitation arrives, before your mind reminds you of yesterday's failures. Move. You weren't designed to sit idle and think your way into greatness. You were built to act, to engage, to move blood before you move ideas. Most people wait. They say, well, let me wake up a little. But the longer you wait, the heavier the body becomes. And with it, your courage, your discipline, your clarity. The moment you put your body into motion, you remind yourself, you are not helpless. You are not stuck. You are not some fragile thing that needs to be careful. You are capable. You are alive. And movement is proof. It doesn't need to be a grand display. Stretch, walk. You're not building muscle. You're building certainty. You're telling your spirit, I go when it's hard. I go when I don't want to. I go. Imagine a man on a cold wooden floor, shivering as dawn breaks. He doesn't wait for comfort. He drops to the ground and starts counting. Not just reps, but reasons to rise. So ask yourself, are you moving because you feel ready, or do you move to become ready? Write down one bold, specific goal for the day. Too many people live in circles, busy but directionless. They check boxes but build nothing. That's because they never decide what matters. They never write it down. And what you don't write, you won't do. Each morning, write down one bold, specific goal. Not 10, not 5, one. One action that, if completed, would move your life forward. Why one? Because one done task outweighs 100 intentions. Because when everything matters, nothing does. This goal isn't about ease, it's about progress. It might be writing 3 pages, making a hard call, solving one nagging problem, whatever it is. It should matter. It should stretch you. And you should write it in ink, not just in thought. Imagine a craftsman pulling out a single piece of wood each morning, placing it on the bench and saying, this is today's work. He doesn't think about tomorrow's chair. He focuses on shaping today's cut. That's what builds mastery. So grab your notebook or tear a page from yesterday. Write your aim, then stare at it until it feels like a vow. The question is, will you let the day dictate your direction, or will you choose where to strike first? Speak gratitude before you speak complaint. Every morning you step into the arena of life, and the very first words you choose, before the world hears them, become the drumbeat of your day. Most people open their eyes with a sigh, a groan, a complaint, too early, too tired, too much. And just like that, they hand their energy to defeat before the day has even begun. They speak weakness, and weakness becomes their identity. But you are not average. You were not made to live on your knees. You were made to rise with purpose, with force, with direction. The secret is this: your words are not just sounds. They are seeds. What you plant first thing in the morning grows. And most people are planting weeds. They let the discomfort of the hour set the tone. They forget the mind is a battlefield and every complaint is a surrender. But power comes when you do the opposite, when you speak gratitude before complaint, strength before struggle, vision before fear. This is not about being soft or blindly optimistic. It's about discipline, precision, intensity. You don't say, "I'm thankful for life," and move on. You say, "I'm thankful my lungs are strong enough to breathe. I'm thankful my scars didn't break me. I'm thankful that even if I've failed 1,000 times, I woke up with one more chance to fight." These are not affirmations, they are declarations. Weapons forged in silence. Power spoken into motion. Picture a man waking in darkness. His body hurts, his past haunts him. The weight of the world is already pressing against his shoulders. But instead of complaining, he sits up and says, "Thank you." Not because he's comfortable, not because it's easy, but because he understands one truth. The fight is not over. He's still breathing, still moving, still becoming. And that alone is enough to be dangerous. You don't need everything to start strong. You need the right focus. If you begin the day counting your weapons, your grit, your breath, your hope, your hands, you rise with a different spirit. The world doesn't shape you. You shape the world. But if you start the day counting your wounds, your lack, your doubts, then you fight with a limp you gave yourself. Every morning is a battle between fear and faith, between comfort and courage. So ask yourself, before you speak, are you reinforcing the version of you that's tired, small, and afraid, or the version that is rising, ready, and unbreakable? The answer is always in the words. Review your vision, not the news. Each morning, before the noise of the world has a chance to invade, you stand at a threshold. And whether you realize it or not, that threshold is sacred. It's the gate between your inner world and everything external. The drama, the deadlines, the doubts and distractions. If you leave that gate unguarded, chaos walks in without knocking. The first message you allow to enter your mind becomes the seed from which your entire day grows. And for most people, that seed is sour. They wake up and reach for a newspaper. They absorb headlines soaked in fear, complaints dressed as conversation, or digital noise screaming urgency over clarity. The moment they consume that first negative input, they surrender their agency. They are no longer leading the mind. They are being led by someone else's fears, someone else's focus, someone else's noise. But you were not built to be an echo. You were built to create, to lead, to architect something greater. And architects do not begin a day by reacting. They begin by consulting the blueprint. That blueprint is your vision, the picture of the life you are building brick by brick. If you do not see that blueprint first thing in the morning, you will forget why the struggle matters. You will lose clarity on what you are building. And worst of all, you'll spend the day constructing someone else's project while your own foundation crumbles quietly beneath you. You must make it a ritual. Before the world intrudes, take 3 minutes. Sit in silence. Let the mind settle like dust after a storm. Pick up your vision, not as a distant dream, but as a present instruction. Read the goals you've written, not passively, but with belief. Speak one line aloud, a line that lifts you, that sharpens you, that reminds you of the reason behind every discipline you carry. Maybe it's, "I am a builder of strength," or "I command my fate," or "I move toward wealth with discipline." These are not affirmations. They are declarations, weapons, shields. They are how you armor your mind before battle. Picture a man sitting in a dim kitchen. The morning is cold, but he doesn't complain. He opens a worn notebook, the same one he's filled with hopes, plans, and truths. He reads his dream again, not because he's unsure, but because repetition turns belief into reality. He steps into the day, not with noise, but with direction. So ask yourself, what enters your mind first, your purpose or someone else's panic? Eliminate one excuse you made yesterday. There is a subtle force that eats away at greatness, not with fire, not with fury, but with quiet permission. It is the habit of making peace with excuses. It disguises itself in soft language. I was too tired. I didn't feel like it. It wasn't the right time. These phrases seem harmless, almost reasonable, but they are not. They are the first cracks in the dam, the quiet surrender of your power. And the moment you allow even one to pass without confrontation, you've begun to train your mind that it's acceptable to retreat when pressure arrives. Excuses are not just delays. They are lies in disguise. They are masks for comfort dressed up as reasons. And here's the truth. The more often you allow them to slide, the deeper they burrow into your identity. You tell yourself, I couldn't help it enough times. And soon you begin to believe you're the kind of person who can't follow through, the kind of person who always falls short. And that is a dangerous shift, because once a weakness becomes part of your self-concept, it controls you. You stop trying to overcome it and start defending it. But that is not your path. You are not here to defend weakness. You are here to defeat it. And that requires a daily practice not of motivation, but of inspection. Each morning you must turn on the light, go back to the previous day. Expose one excuse that you gave yourself. Don't ignore it. Don't sugarcoat it. Write it down. Look it in the eye. I didn't finish because I was distracted. I skipped the hard task because it felt overwhelming. I wasted time talking about the goal instead of working on it. Then ask yourself the hard question. Is this who I am? Or is this who I've allowed myself to become? That question alone draws a line in the sand, and once it's drawn, you get to choose which side you stand on. Will you let that excuse stand as truth? Or will you destroy it and replace it with power? Now take the next step. Turn that awareness into a vow, not a wish, a vow. Wishes float, vows root. They bind you to action. Declare it clearly and simply. Today I will work uninterrupted for 2 hours. Today I complete the task before I speak of tiredness. Today I finish what I start, no matter how I feel. These are not empty promises. These are weapons, forged in self-respect, swung in daily battle. This single habit of confronting and eliminating one excuse per day is like a craftsman who sharpens his blade each morning before he strikes. He doesn't ask if the blade is dull, he assumes it is, because use causes wear. He sharpens anyway, because a dull edge left unchecked becomes useless. So it is with the mind. Now picture this. A man sits quietly at a table. Before him lies a list of things left undone, calls unmade, pages half written, promises delayed. He takes a pen, circles one item, and says aloud, "No more excuses." He doesn't wait for inspiration. He doesn't negotiate. He simply chooses to finish what weakness once interrupted. That one act changes the tone of his entire day. So the question is not whether you have excuses. You do. We all do. The question is what you'll tolerate today. Will you let excuses run the show, or will you rise above them, one by one, until they no longer define you? Because each time you destroy an excuse, you elevate your life. Set a standard for your energy. How you show up matters more than where you show up. That simple truth separates the powerful from the passive, the builders from the drifters. The world loves to talk about location, what city you live in, what room you walk into, what company you work for. But the real secret? Success is not rooted in location. It's rooted in presence. It's not where you are. It's who you are when you arrive. You don't command a room by standing in it. You command a room by owning how you enter it. And that command doesn't start at the door. It begins long before. It starts the moment you rise. The moment your eyes open, the game begins. Most people move like leftovers, tired, reactive, resigned. They slump from bed to routine without a trace of intention. They let the day pull them instead of deciding to pull the day. But you must be different. You must move before you're moved. Because energy doesn't appear by accident. It's generated. It's cultivated. It's chosen. You cannot expect to bring presence to a meeting if you have not brought power to your morning. And that power is built in small, invisible choices. Do you lie there waiting for motivation? Or do you swing your feet off the bed and decide to move with strength? Do you walk slowly, half awake, dragging through the day's beginning? Or do you breathe with control, straighten your spine, and step with purpose? You are training yourself moment by moment. and every motion either adds to your intensity or subtracts from it. Energy is not just about feeling good. It's not about hype. It's about presence, clarity, direction. It's a discipline, and just like any muscle, it must be trained. Strength doesn't appear from comfort. It comes from consistent, deliberate demand. You don't wait to feel confident. You act with confidence until it grows. You don't wait to be ready. You prepare yourself until readiness is who you are. If you don't consciously cultivate this energy, the world will cultivate it for you. And the world's default setting is fatigue, distraction, scattered thought, empty movement. If you allow that to seep in, you'll start your day behind, and every room you walk into will feel heavier than it should. But if you choose your energy deliberately, if you stand tall even when no one sees, if you speak with intention even when it's just to yourself, if you move with control even through routine, then you walk into rooms differently. You carry yourself like someone who knows why they're there, and that presence is unmistakable. Picture a man walking into a small, ordinary shop. His clothes are plain, his steps are quiet. But when he enters, heads turn, not because he demands attention, but because he doesn't. His posture is precise, his breath steady, his eyes clear, and the room reacts, not to his words, but to his energy. It's calm but strong, silent but sharp. He radiates direction, not noise. Why? Because he trained it. He decided it. He didn't wait for the world to offer energy. He brought it. That's the kind of presence that shifts outcomes. And it starts long before the moment of performance. It starts in solitude. It starts in your room, in your hallway, in your mirror. It starts in the discipline of choosing how you move, how you stand, how you breathe. Even when no one's watching, ask yourself, do you drift into your day with whatever feeling shows up first, or do you command it? Do you wait for the mood to arrive, or do you create the mood with movement, posture, focus? You do not need a spotlight to build presence. You do not need a crowd to train intensity. You need only a moment and a decision to show up like it matters, because it does. You're not just walking into rooms, you're walking into destiny, into decisions, into battles and breakthroughs that require you to bring your full self, not a diluted version shaped by convenience. So tomorrow, before the world makes a single demand of you, make one of yourself. Show up before you're called. Build your energy before you're tested. Carry your presence before you speak. That is how leaders move. That is how power walks in. Not with noise, but with decision. Practice one act of mental resistance. The strongest people in the world don't always wear their strength on their sleeves. They don't always move with noise or boast about their power. Their strength lies deeper, in a place no one sees. It's in their ability to say no. Not just once, but over and over again. Not now. That simple phrase, spoken to desire, is the foundation of inner power. Because true strength is not the ability to lift something heavy, it's the ability to resist something tempting, the discipline to delay pleasure, the mental fortitude to stay the course when comfort whispers detours. Each morning, before the world makes its demands, you must train that strength. Not with noise, not with grand declarations, but with a quiet act of resistance. Something small, something simple, something that reminds your body that you are in charge. Take your coffee black, even if you prefer it sweet. Finish your reading before you eat. Step into your work before you open your mouth. These are not punishments. They're not self-denial. They're proof. Proof that you are not a slave to your impulses. Proof that your mind responds to command, not craving. Proof that you are the master of your own momentum. Why does this matter? Because temptation is everywhere. And it never arrives dressed as danger. It comes dressed as ease, as justice once, as you deserve it. It doesn't break the strong all at once. It chips away at them piece by piece. The man who cannot say no to sugar, to sleep, will never be able to say yes to the demands of greatness, because greatness doesn't come gently. It demands sacrifice, precision, focus. And these traits are born from daily decisions made in silence. Imagine a young man. The alarm rings at 5 a.m. The room is dark. The air is cold. And every cell in his body begs him to return to warmth, to delay, to hit snooze and try again later. But instead, he throws off the blanket, places his feet on the floor, and whispers, "I said 5 a.m., so I rise at 5 a.m. That single act seems small, insignificant, but it's not. It is a declaration, a line drawn, a message to his mind. We don't bow to mood. We honor our word. This is how strength is built, not in crowds, not in chaos, but in early hours when the only witness is your own reflection. You don't need applause for these moments. You don't need anyone to understand, because these small resistances stack. Each one is a brick in your mental fortress. And one day, when a real storm comes, when temptation doesn't feel like sugar but feels like betrayal, failure, distraction, collapse, you will be ready. Not because you trained in battle, but because you trained before the battle. You don't win your life by reacting to everything that arrives. You win it by deciding who you are before the test comes. You build your code and you live by it. You make your vow and you protect it. You set your standard and you reinforce it. That's how warriors move. That's how leaders rise. They don't need motivation to do what's right. They need only a reminder of what they promised themselves. So ask yourself, what resistance will you practice today? Will you deny the first urge to reach for comfort? Will you walk one more lap when your legs ache? Will you delay speaking until your words are necessary? These are the questions that sharpen you. These are the choices that harden your will, not into stone, but into steel. Flexible, durable, unbreakable. The strongest version of you is not built by chance. It's built by challenge. Not the kind that life throws at you, but the kind you choose to throw at yourself. So every morning, give yourself a task to resist. One quiet battle. One invisible victory. Not because you have something to prove to the world, but because you must prove daily that your word means more than your move. That is the path to power. Not a loud one, but a chosen one. Speak one sentence that embodies your identity. Every day you become a little more of what you speak, not in theory, not in metaphor, but in fact. Words are not just sounds floating into space, they're seeds, and the mouth is the soil. What you say takes root, it creates momentum, it becomes the track. Your thoughts, actions, and outcomes will follow. That's why what you say in the morning is not trivial, it's not small, it's sacred. Most people speak without awareness. They wake up and immediately say things like, I'm tired, I'm behind, I can't do this today. And then they step into a day that seems heavy, slow, unclear. But it's not the world that made it so. It's the script they wrote at sunrise. They spoke defeat before they even met resistance. They surrendered before the battle began. But the wise, the builders, they speak with intention. They don't wait to feel confident to speak powerfully. They speak powerfully to become confident. They speak not to describe what they feel, but to direct where they're going. They say things like, I am the kind of man who finishes what he starts, or I am the kind of woman who meets discomfort with fire. These words are not just affirmations. They are identity statements. They don't ask the world for permission. They declare who they are becoming. That declaration is everything, because if you don't define yourself, the world will do it for you. It will name you by your failures, your weaknesses, your past, and the world's labels are always too small, too shallow, too soft. So before the world even gets a chance, you must speak. Speak not about who you were yesterday or how you feel in this moment, but about who you are becoming. Speak like the person who is already there. Not out of delusion, but out of decision. One sentence, spoken aloud, daily, that's all it takes. But it must be sharp, it must be strong, it must be yours. It has to pierce through doubt and cut through fatigue. It must be more than noise. It must be a sword. One that lives not just in your mind, but in your spine. Something you can reach for when the day pushes back. Something you can lean on when you feel the old habits creeping in. This is not about pretending you're never tired or never overwhelmed. It's about choosing what truth you want to magnify. You can tell yourself you're stuck, or you can tell yourself you're learning. You can say, I can't, or you can say, I'm not there yet, but I'm coming. You can say, it's too hard, or you can say, I'm built for hard things. The words may be small, but the shift is massive, because eventually you begin to live by what you speak. Your identity rewires around it. Your decisions echo it. Your habits reinforce it, and your results reflect it. Not overnight, but surely. So the question is not just what words you say. The question is, what kind of person do you keep becoming each time you speak? If your words were bricks, what kind of house are you building? If your words were fuel, where are you driving yourself? If your words were weapons, who are you arming? Your future self or your fears? You don't need the world to chant your name. You don't need crowds to believe in you. You need a mirror, a voice. and a sentence that refuses to break no matter how hard the day becomes. Choose it wisely. Speak it clearly. Repeat it until your actions catch up. And never forget, you are always becoming. So make sure you're becoming stronger every time you speak. Choose what you will endure today. Every day greets you with challenges, and the world makes no promises of ease. The winds of difficulty blow whether you like it or not. Pain will come, fatigue will test you, frustration will knock. But what separates the strong from the stagnant is not the absence of pain, it's the decision to choose which pain to face. You don't control whether pain visits, but you do control whether it breaks you or builds you. Most people rise each morning and carry a silent hope in their chest. Let today be easy. They pray not for strength, but for softness, not for growth, but for comfort. And that hope, though it feels innocent, is quietly destructive. Because comfort does not make you stronger. It softens your edges. It lulls you into delay. It convinces you that greatness will come without grit. But greatness never arrives on a gentle road. The strongest among us don't pray for ease. They don't beg for softness. They pick their pain. Because they understand, if you don't choose your struggle, life will assign you one. And it will never be the one that sharpens you. It will be the kind that drains you. Regret, guilt, wasted time, lost years. That's the pain of avoidance. And it's far heavier than the pain of discipline. So each morning becomes a question of character. What pain am I willing to face today? And for what reward? Will you face the ache of rising early when every fiber wants 5 more minutes? Will you face the sting of staying silent when your pride demands to lash out? This is not masochism. This is maturity. It's the wisdom to understand that short-term discomfort, when chosen wisely, becomes long-term power. And every time you endure what most people avoid, you separate yourself, you elevate, you build grit, not in grand moments, but in daily decisions. Endurance is not just a trait, it is a contract with greatness. It is your signature on the promise, I will not run when it hurts. I will stand. I will choose the fire that forges me, not the one that burns me for nothing. You say to yourself, I will suffer early, so I do not suffer late. I will endure now, so I can rest when the mission is complete. Picture a man walking out into the fields before dawn. The frost bites. His back is sore, his fingers stiff, his breath fogs in the cold air. And yet, he smiles. Not because it's easy, but because it's chosen. Because he understands that no harvest comes without this morning's pain. Every ache in his body is currency. Every step into the frozen field is an investment, and the return will not come today, but it will come. His life always rewards those who stay when it's hard. The same is true in every field, in business, in health, in relationships, in character. If you want to grow, you must plant. And planting always hurts. It demands effort, repetition, silence, waiting. It demands you push through what your body resists and your mind negotiates. But in return, it offers fruit that only a few will ever taste. Too many suffer by accident. They suffer because they didn't prepare, because they avoided the workout, the conversation, the discipline, and now they suffer regret, weakness, doubt. That is unnecessary suffering. That is suffering without reward. You are not here for that. You are here to suffer with purpose, to endure on purpose, to feel the sting of resistance, not as punishment, but as a signpost. A reminder, this is where most people quit, and this is where you separate yourself. So tomorrow morning, before you do anything else, make your choice. Decide what you are willing to endure. Say it to yourself out loud, not as a complaint, but as a commitment. I will endure the cold of the early morning. I will endure the silence of unseen work. I will endure the burn of pushing through the hard thing, not because it feels good, but because it leads somewhere great. Let the world chase comfort. Let them pray for ease, but not you. You're not here for an easy life. You're here for a powerful one. A life built on decisions, not default. On will, not wish. And when the day tests you, as it surely will, stand tall, look it in the eye and say, I chose this. Because when you choose your suffering, it cannot own you. When you face your pain with purpose, it cannot stop you. So I ask you one final question, and answer it with your actions, not your words. What pain are you willing to face today to become who you were born to be? Remember the oath you took with yourself. There was a moment, perhaps in the dead of night, when the world was asleep and you were wide awake with fire in your chest, that you said enough. A quiet but powerful vow. No applause, no witnesses, just you and your own truth. Maybe it came after pain, after disappointment, after looking at a version of yourself you could no longer accept. Maybe it came not in anger, but in stillness. You looked yourself in the mirror and made a silent oath. I will rise above this. I will not keep living like this. I will change. But time has a way of dulling even the sharpest vows. The intensity you felt in that moment fades under the weight of routine. You wake up one morning and realize that vow, the one that once meant everything, has become a whisper buried under comfort, convenience, and noise. You remember it vaguely, like a dream that once moved you but now feels distant. That is why every morning, without fail, you must revisit that promise. Not just remember it as a nostalgic memory, but relive it. Go back to the why. Go back to that moment you swore you would no longer live small, no longer break under the same excuses, no longer tolerate the same habits that were quietly destroying you. You didn't make that vow out of emotion. You made it because you saw clearly. And clarity is rare. When it comes, you must build your life around it. What did you swear to change? Was it the way you gave in too easily to distraction? The way you let fear decide your future? Did you promise you'd stop letting anger control your responses? Stop playing the victim? Stop shrinking to fit into spaces that never respected your worth? Did you say, I will never go back to that weakness? Did you whisper, this time I finish? Those words were not light. They came from your soul. Write it again. Speak it again. Not because you forgot, but because repetition carves belief, and belief fuels discipline. Discipline keeps you steady when motivation fades, and motivation always fades. Most people treat promises to themselves like passing weather. They say things like, this is the last time, but the next time comes easily. They say, I'm done, but continue the same cycles. They treat their own word like it's negotiable. But you cannot afford that, because when you break a promise to yourself, you fracture the foundation of your own strength, and every time you do it, your mind remembers. It learns that your word can't be trusted. It stops believing you. And once your own belief in yourself cracks, the world will sense it and reflect it back to you. You must treat your vow like sacred ground, something no one else needs to understand, but something you protect with your entire being. Because that promise was not just about action. It was about identity. It was about becoming someone who doesn't quit when it's hard, who doesn't retreat when it's inconvenient, who doesn't abandon the mission because comfort showed up wearing the mask of self-care. Picture a craftsman in a quiet workshop. The light is dim. The air is still. Every morning, before he begins his work, he sharpens his blade, slowly, carefully, and with each stroke he repeats the same sentence under his breath. I promised I'd become better. That promise doesn't make the work easier, but it makes it worth it. It gives direction to every small decision. That's how excellence is built, not by chance, but by recommitting daily to the same vow others would have abandoned. You once took an oath when no one was watching. It wasn't for show. It wasn't for anyone else's approval. It was born from pain, clarity, and vision. Don't let convenience erase it. Don't let time make you passive. That promise still lives, but it needs your breath to keep it alive. So ask yourself honestly, have you kept your word, or have you traded it for comfort? Are you moving in the direction you swore you would go, or have you softened the edges of your ambition to make room for ease? It is not too late to return. It never is. Even if the path is overgrown, even if your muscles are sore from delay, even if your spirit feels tired, pick up the promise. Dust it off. Speak it again. Let it remind you who you are and what you refuse to become. There is no one more powerful than the person who honors their own word. Be that person again. Be the one who returns to the fire. Not once, not twice, but every day until the life you swore to build is no longer a promise, but your reality. Visualize the struggle, then walk into it. Success does not arrive by accident, nor does it belong to those who hide from difficulty. It belongs to those who face it deliberately, directly, and early. You don't succeed by avoiding the hard parts. You succeed by attacking them while your energy is sharp, your mind is clear, and your spirit is willing. That window is brief. Most miss it. They wake with intention, but trade it for distraction. And by the time they return to the task that matters, their will has thinned and their strength has scattered. That is the quiet theft of delay. The most common mistake is to believe that avoiding the hard things somehow makes the day easier. It doesn't. It simply pushes the weight further into your shoulders. Like a lion at the edge of the camp, it grows more terrifying the longer you pretend not to see it. The more you sidestep that task, that conversation, that decision, the larger it looms in your mind. until it consumes your focus and poisons your peace. Not because it's impossible, but because you didn't face it when you were strongest. The answer? Face the lion first. In the quiet of the morning, when the world hasn't yet pulled you in 100 directions, go straight to the thing you least want to do. Look at it. Picture its size. Imagine every part of the process. Let it stand there in your mind, unhidden. Do not blink. Then walk into it. Not slowly, not cautiously, but like someone who understands that clarity without action is just decoration. Ask